More than a third of the working age population has been given support by the government during the pandemic. The Treasury claims around 14.5 million jobs and individuals have been supported by initiatives such as the furlough scheme and the help for the self-employed. The government said it has spent £352 billion in a support package, that it was one of the most generous in the world. But was it? Well, delighted to say we're joined by the Labour MP, Jonathan Reynolds, who is the Shadow Work and Pensions Secretary. Good morning to you, Jonathan. Before we get on to that, I suppose I should ask you your reaction to England's game and the result last night. I'm sure you're with the rest of the nation, a pretty happy man this morning.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. A little bit tired this morning, but really nice to be speaking to you. But it was just fantastic. I love these tournaments, but this has been something really special. And last night was fabulous, and now we've got the weekend. Indeed,
indeed. So you guys are coming up this morning, as in Labour, saying you feel that the government haven't done enough, but they're saying, oh, hold on a second, we supported a third of the population with record-breaking support. Surely you have to recognise they did a pretty good job, didn't they, of keeping people in employment over the past year in the most difficult of circumstances?
Well, we will always support the government if we think they've done the right thing, and furlough, keeping people attached to their job rather than them losing that job was what we wanted, and we wanted to see it extended. I just think some of the sort of self-congratulatory stuff from the government this morning, you've got to understand that, of course, there have been people who have really had a tough time in this pandemic. The 3 million excluded people in particular. The IFS report today talks about people who were already in poverty and what it's meant for them, a fifth of them further behind on their bills. And of course, there's still challenges ahead. This announcement yesterday that letters would go out to the 6 million households who will receive universal credit, saying they'll lose £20 a week, £1,000 a year from September. These are still big issues. So I think people want us to be focused still on the pandemic and the support that they need throughout it.
Yeah, in saying that, though, of course, we do know that there were expectations that employment would really rise, potentially above 10%. That didn't happen. And my point is that, you know, we're now in quite a lot of debt because of it. Rightly so, many would argue. But the government's attention now has to be in some ways about retrenching, doesn't it? And about how to, having provided that support, about how to bring down that debt load, which obviously future generations are going to have to deal with.
Yes, it has to be focused on recovery, and specifically in relation to the debt, it has to grow the economy so that debt becomes a smaller proportion of our GDP. So I would say on that, first of all, we've got to get people back into work. Now, let's not forget universal credit is an in-work benefit as well. 40% of those 6 million households are households where people are in work. So you've got to remember that. And second of all, to get the economy moving, what do you need? You need money spent on local shops, on local services. That £20 a week they're going to take away, that's exactly where that goes. No one's putting this in an offshore bank account. It's spent in the local economy. So I would say, on terms of this universal credit cut, it is morally wrong, but it's economically wrong as well. And they've got to reconsider that. What we'd have at the minute, if they proceed, is furlough would end in September. And you then see that cut to universal credit happen at the same time. To me, that makes no sense at all.
Well, but if the economy's bouncing back, which it is, and we know that things are picking up, and they should pick up even further when it comes to essentially the recovery because things are opening up, we've got literally record-breaking job vacancies. What the government shouldn't be doing at the moment is helping people essentially stay out of work. We should be encouraging them to get in and get good, well-paid jobs. And the fear is, of course, with the furlough scheme and indeed with the universal benefit, £20, is that you're actually discouraging people from taking up jobs that we need these jobs to be filled.
Well, of course, this is what the Prime Minister said at the liaison committee yesterday. I've just got to say he is completely wrong, and it's not acceptable that the British Prime Minister doesn't understand these fundamentals. So universal credit is a benefit you receive if you're out of work, but also if you're in work. It's a means-tested benefit on your household income. So if you're in higher paid work, it doesn't matter what the level of universal credit is for the core amount, because you wouldn't receive it. The whole system of universal credit is designed to make sure work always pays. There are still some problems with that, I acknowledge, but there is simply no argument that says if you keep universal credit at the level it was increased to in the pandemic, you will deter people from going into work. You're basically talking about a benefit, and the core amount, that is one-fifth of a wage that you'd receive if you were on the minimum wage. There's just no reason the Prime Minister should have got that so wrong yesterday, and frankly he needs to do better in terms of supporting families, particularly those in work on low incomes.
But just finally, and quickly if you can, but do you not get there is concerns that you could be creating a dependency culture, that the state has done so much over the last year that we do need to pull back a bit? That's entirely legitimate.
No, I don't in any way. Obviously, we can't continue policies like furlough, but no one's suggesting that. But let's be clear, Britain's social security benefits are some of the lowest in the industrialised world. I mean, the level universal credit would go to if this cut were to proceed in September would be the lowest in real terms for 3 or 4 decades. I mean, there's simply no argument that says if we keep the uplift and have what is still not a particularly generous benefit, it will deter people from going into work or create a dependency culture. That's just simply not the case. It doesn't stack up. It is morally and economically wrong to proceed with that cut to universal credit in September.
OK, Jonathan Reynolds, Labour's Shadow Secretary of State for Work and Pensions. Thank you very much indeed for joining us from Westminster this morning.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.